The final piece that we're going to look at is actually kind of a two-in-one. You get a freebie because it's there are two versions of this, and one is a mirrored version of the other. And this is a little small wing piece. I'm going to just drop this into the scene here, and this can help us start to visualize. And essentially what it is it's three of these bumps here, and then this other side cuts diagonally down through here, so there aren't any bumps over here. And then on the edge of this diagonal part, there are gaps where underlying bumps can fit into. So let's get what we need out of this, get rid of the rest, and start looking here. All right, so I'm going to get the tops of those, and I'm going to grab the inside of these, and let's go all the way up. Oops, I picked the wrong ones. Real good. So these, and actually let's see here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're also going to need these here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to come out to here. Oops. Come out to here first. Now I'm going to include these three here and these three here on the top side. That should get me where I need to be. Yep, so let's go ahead and invert our selection, cut out the rest, and we have a nice starting point here. What I'm going to do additionally is I'm going to take another version of this piece, and I'm just going to move it down 3.2 millimeters so that it can lie underneath, and this will give us a good visual guide to what's going on the edges of this piece. All right, so with that ready, let's go ahead and move over and start working on our model. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here and put everything up. I've been using this same scene to do the lighting shots for the icons, so start to get a little cluttered there. Alrighty, so let's start here by kind of boxing out what we need. So we know it's going to come down. It's going to be 24 millimeters deep, and I'm going to make it this full width, so 16 millimeters, and then we can taper back from there. And that's going to be easier than the alternative, which would be having to go through and add in edges to a diagonal surface. Not the most enjoyable thing to do. So let's set our x to -4. I'll put that in the right place. And just going to go ahead and pull this down 3.2 millimeters. There we go. And now we got this taken up pretty much the right space. So let me go here. Looks like it went into the wrong layer. So let's take this, let me hide that, cut that, and then just go paste it in with these guys. And then we can unhide that other stuff. Alright, and for right now I'm just going to hide this background piece because we're not going to need it as we get started here. Oops, and the whole thing needs to be moved up too, so let's go ahead and move up 3.2 millimeters so that we're in the right place. Alright, so now all the kind of typical edge flows, poly loops that we needed on the other pieces are going to apply here. So we're going to need 3 going across each of these, and then 3 going this way on each of these. And we're actually going to do the same thing into this open space here. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to do all my sharpening after I get the overall shape done. That's going to be kind of important on this one, otherwise you'll end up fighting with a bunch of extra edge loops that you really don't need to. So I'm going to go ahead and start by putting one edge right down the middle here. And then I'm going to put 2 edges that will just slice down the middle of each of these. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab each of these and I'm going to bevel these out just a little ways. And I'm going to set my round level to, actually that's not going to do it, because if I set my round level up to 2, it's actually going to give me double the amount of edges, so we don't need that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to a round level of 0, and then on each of these, oops, I will go ahead and run 2 loop slices so that those are set up. Okay, now we need to run loops through these, and then loops through these. Oops. This one, got to do those separately. if you have adjacent edges that you're trying to run loop slices through, it's going to start running your loops in different directions, and that can give you a headache real fast. All right, so there's the overall size that we're looking for. I am going to go ahead and add in one loop here to tighten on each side of this, and actually I can do this with the edge bevel. So let me just go ahead and bevel out and set my round level to 1, and I'll go at 100 UM. So that's going to give me the little bit of difference that I need here in order to make this edge sharp. So if I tab this right now, you can see we're not there yet on sharpness, but we do have all of our subdivisions, and now we can get the overall footprint correct before we move on. So what I'm going to do, let's take this, and I'm just going to hide everything else at the moment. It's going to make my doing my selections a fair bit easier. And let's go ahead here and go to vertices. I'm going to select everything over here. All right, and then I'm going to set my fall off to linear, and we want it running down the X. That looks right. And we want to use our scale tool, not our move tool, but our scale tool. And let's see here, we want this to be going the other way, so we'll reverse our direction. And then I'm going to set my action center to element. What I want to do down here is I want to grab this inside edge is the element that we want to move towards. And now as I scale this down, oops, let's reverse that again so we're going the right direction. I'm going to scale this down to, let's see, look for the top view here. Let's scale that down. Oops, there we go. We want to look for getting these guys just to kind of hit that line. Now, the difference between 1.5 and 1% is kind of where we want to be. So I'm going to put this at 1.2%, which you'll have to key in manually. And then we have our overall footprint done now. All right, so this will be really helpful here as we go to move on. If I subdivide that, we'll see we actually will already get some sharpening. This is kind of artificial sharpening because it's not complete. It's just because these edges are getting close together, and you can see obviously down there we're not getting the same sharpening. So I'm going to go ahead and run loop slices. Oops, turn my symmetry off. Excuse me. And turn my fall off. Let's try that again. Turn my fall off, and then I'll run my loop slice. Go up to 2%. So we get our vertical one, and then I'm going to go this way, and I don't need this extra one, so I'll just delete it there. And let's also run one down here, and again we don't need the inner one, so I'll just get rid of that. So the last two places we're looking are here and here, so we'll run those. And again, just so I don't have to reset my tool, I'll get rid of those. So this is going to be all the sharpening that I'm going to do here initially at the outset. If I do more than that, it's going to start to make my life difficult, especially on the underside here. So let's look at creating the underside of this. What I'm going to do is go over to polys. I'm just going to select the very bottom. And this is going to take a little bit more manual work than in the previous ones that we've done here. So let's make sure group polys is on, and we're going to run that. And then let's show our background one. And go to our top view, and run a scale tool, set our action center to automatic so that we can come in this way. And we can come in this way. Oops, looks like I may have selected one. No, okay. I'm sorry, I made the mistake of scaling before I unsubdivided, so let's go back over to vertices unsubdivide. Now go to polys, and we'll run that scale again here. So I want to run it horizontally first, because that one's a little easier line to get. And then we'll run it vertically. And when we run this this vertical one, we're going to see the issue that we're having here, and that's that this edge is much closer to the outer edge than this back one is. And you can see that distance there is obviously much larger than that, and it actually needs to be uniform. So what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to set our action center now to element. Go ahead and click on this back edge, and let's go ahead and we're going to pull this back. And actually, let's see here. I need to get an extra reference sometimes. It's good to check with what you've been working on. Will help to make sure that you keep your scales proper and everything. Yeah, so this one definitely does come in farther than that underlying piece. And where we're looking at getting this, it's going to be getting this top edge in the right place. And every time I do this, it just seems like it still requires a bit of tweaking here. This is not the friendliest piece to work on. That's probably why we've left it for the end here. So let's see if we line this up. I'm looking for this coming kind of towards the top piece there, towards this thing, so that it lines up initially with it, but then moves away kind of quickly. And you can see when we get this edge in place, this one then, is too far away. So that's actually all right, though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect, now that I've got this all done, deselect all this stuff. Okay, and then I'm going to go with my move tool and set my fall off to linear, and then we're just going to pull it down until we get our nice even spacing there. Okay. You may or may not want to adjust this edge. Actually, I think I'm just gonna leave it straight there. That will give me a little easier bit to work with. So let's go here and have a look at how that was. Oops, and actually, make sure I keep that selected. Let's hide our underlying one here. Select all this other stuff that goes underneath. We'll create our interior. I want to make sure that I'm also getting this edge here, so let's get that. Oops. Okay. Now we'll bevel again. Click. Let's turn our fall off, and we'll just move up 1.7 millimeters. And then we'll have our overall form and footprint correct. Now there are going to be some definite issues here when we're going to start placing in where the gaps go, and those are going to take a little bit of work. So let's go ahead and do those right now. And we're going to do those before we add in more loop slices. Before we add any more loop slices in here. So let's right now let's unhide the rest of our stuff here, and we can see. So here's the here are these inner pieces, and we're just going to leave these for right now. They should be pretty close to what we need, and if they're not the right amount of edges, we can still use these as templates to attach to. Okay, so we'll leave those for now. We also have our underside pieces here, which will fit into this spot, and this spot, and that spot. They'll fit into there. And on the top side, since we didn't have to do any of the scaling, we have a really nice place to put these. We just have these 3 slots right there that we'll cut and put in. But we don't want to be putting these or attaching these yet, because we might need to run some extra loop slices through here to get some sharpening on some of these edges, and you want those loop slices to run in between and not up into the actual geometry of those bumps, or else you're going to start to get sharpening along those edges, which is not something that we want. All right, so let's actually, let me hide the rest of that stuff again here and bring back in our underlying piece. And what I'm going to do here to start making this is I'm just going to grab I'm just going to go for the middle 3 here. I'm going to align my work plane to that, and that's going to make my job here significantly easier over the next few edits that I need to do. So let's see here. Let's start back here on the back side. This has now become our top side. And what I want to do is I want to find the inner edge, which is this one runs in here, and so this right here is going to be that edge. There we go. That edge that runs inside here, and this is going to act kind of as the right-hand side of our first gap. So what I'm going to do, let's go back here. And actually, you can see where I did get, this has a little bit of an angle still on it. I think what I'm going to do even before I do that is I'm going to go here underneath, and I'm going to select all of this stuff here. It runs all the way up along this. And I'm just going to flatten this out. So I'm going to run my scale tool, turn off negative scale. I'm just going to flatten that. That might cause a little bit of weirdness on these edges, which it did. So actually, it's close enough. I think I'm gonna leave it. Probably would have been a good idea to align this before I did that, but this is such a slight angle here. It's going to be a lot of extra work to go in and realign those edges and then these edges over here. So we'll leave it kind of just slightly off kilter. Looks like it was a couple of degrees, and that's okay. So let's go back to this. Let's go to our edges. We should still have that selected. And what we want to do is slide these. So I'm going to select and slide. Oops. Make sure that I have enough of the edges, the necessary edges selected here. I want to make sure that, oh yeah, I don't have, oops, that's why. I wasn't on edges. There we go. That'll get you every time. So now let's go ahead here, and I'm going to slide these. And it keeps converting back to edges, or back to points. Make sure you're on an edge. There we go. Before I slide. And what we're looking for here is I want to get this edge to just come to kind of the beginning of this gap right here. You can see that this is one of the bumps. Pretty zoomed in, so sometimes it's a little hard to see. But so this is one of those bumps, and I want to get this to where this is just going to fit nicely into there. And on the inside, it's going to fit pretty tightly. Then on the outside, it's going to move away, and what it will do is it will move, the edge will be perpendicular to this outer edge. So what I'm going to do here is select all the rest of those. Let's check those out. And then I need to flatten this out, and I want to set my action center to element and my my axis to auto. I'm just going to click on this edge because this is, oops, I'll just turn on my scale tool first. So I'm just going to click on this edge, and now you can see that we have an auto action center based off of that, and I'm just going to flatten that out. And should have something relatively straight there. It's pretty darn close. Again, if you were just to eyeball that perpendicular, you're not even going to get this close, so that's where this is going to come in really handy. Okay, and now I'm going to take this edge here, and this one, oops, don't need to select that much of it. I want to get this, this, and that. And this one we're going to scale down. And this one is just going to go kind of in the middle of the gap here, so I'm just going to align it to this edge. Yeah, we're just going to kind of flatten that out. And then I'm going to slide it as well. I'm just going to slide it to kind of roughly go down the middle of that bump, so we don't need as much precision on that. Okay, and now we're going to go up to this edge right here, and this one we will align to the inner edge of the bump again. So let's go ahead and grab, this edge here, and I'm going to run slide. Let's see where we are. There we are. And this one is just going to slide over to, again, just going to kind of grab the inside edge, give it a little bit of daylight, but just kind of right inside that edge there. And then I'm going to expand my selection up through here. And I'm going to run my scale tool and just select this edge here. We'll flatten that down. And now we have a space where this piece will fit. Oops. Or did I scale that a little funny? I think I may have. Let's check here. Or am I looking at the wrong part? Let's see, let's hide that underlying one and we'll be able to see here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so here's this gap that we'll have. So if I select this here, and we can delete this whole section, and this will give us that gap where that piece will fit through. So let's do the same thing for the next one up, and that's all we'll actually need because this one only has slots for 2 of the underlying bumps, because by the time you get to the third one you can see it actually still has some clearance, and if you look at one of these up close you can see that you really do have a little bit of space. So that's going to be perfect. So let's see here. Let's hide this one and see which is going to be our next one to look at here. I think it's probably going to be this guy. Let's see, where's that? Yep, that one will do. And we want to, again, run our slide tool. And, oh, I'm sorry, boy. When you get up here to the top, we want to run the outside one first because this is the one that makes the point of contact. But before I actually run that, what I'm going to do here, actually, no, take it back. I can just go ahead and run it. So I only really need to adjust this one right here. So let's get in here close, run slide. And now I got to find it in my oops, select the wrong one. Real easy to get upside down on this. That's it. So I just got to find that here in my view. Oh, there it is. Click and drag, and sometimes that'll save you the problems there. So I'm going to run up to here and just leave a little bit of daylight, and then I'm going to include the next edge, all this stuff down into there. We're going to run our scale tool again, and we're going to select this edge as our center, and just flatten that out. And I'm going to do the same thing again here with this next one. I'm just going to, it's going to be this one here. I'm just going to flatten this one out. So this, and that are all we need. I'm just going to run my scale tool and let's just center up. My axis is back to auto there. I'm just going to flatten that out. I need to see my wireframes a little bit better in here, and notice that's getting a little bit difficult to see. So I'm just going to turn up my wireframe, and I'm going to turn it onto that uniform one. So it's going to be a little bit easier on the eyes. So we got that one, this one. And now we'll move to this one over here, which I'll grab that outside edge, zoom in, let's bring back our background mesh, again with the slide tool, and we just want that to go right to there. We'll include that edge, and all of those. Scale tool, line it up to that edge right there, and flatten it out. And then we're done. I'm not going to mess with all of the additional edges in there, although I am going to slide this one to a little bit more central location. Just so it's kind of running down the middle here. I'm going to double check and make sure I don't have anything crazy going on. No, those all line up. So I want basically the majority of, here let's reset our work plane, life will get a little bit more clear here. I want the majority of my distortion where my edges are going to shift direction a bit to happen on these big flat open edges. So here, and then also in here on this underside, same thing we've got going on. We want that to look like that. So let's go ahead, I'm going to apply our material here, our base gray to this so it stands out a little bit better. And now we want to go ahead and slice or cut in and put sections through here. But one thing that we'll notice, oops, see something in the UV there, let's clean that up soon. I'm going to run a single loop slice, and this one I just want to align with the inner edge. Oops. This inner edge in here, so that if I delete sections from in here to out here, it's going to give us a nice flat surface, and basically this inner surface is just going to extend straight out and then go straight up the wall there. So I'll give that, run my scale tool, and let's just click it onto the inside, and then we should be good. So let's, if we select this edge, we'll be able to see that, yeah, that line's right up in there with what we want. Okay, and we do already have, no, we don't, good. This is why I didn't want to make any extra loops at the beginning. I want to save all my loop slices for after I get this done, although I do have one here, and I'm going to, for now, I'm just going to delete that. So we're going to be staying out of subd until we get this pretty much done. So let's take all of these, and then go down to the next one, and we'll get all of these. Oops, and boy, I do have a bit of an error here, and that's that I'm going to need to align these edges with the underlying geometry, so with that edge there. So I'm just going to grab that one, run my scale tool, and I'm going to set my action center to element, and I'm just going to flatten that one out. I'm going to go ahead and do this with all of these, even if they look straight, and even this middle one. Oops. Just even though they might look straight, I want to make sure that these are indeed straight. So this one, this one. I think I did get ahead of myself there. I probably should have added in this loop slice through the middle before I went and added those in, but this is a relatively minor correction to make, so it's not going to turn out to be a big deal. So there's those, ready to go. I'm going to cut those out, and I'm just going to take this whole thing, just because seeing the UV popping up there kind of bugs me a little bit. So I'm going to my logo bump here and just edit and delete those UVs. We don't get that on there anymore. Okay, so here is the rough shape. We need to fill in some gaps here, and since we haven't added in any loop slices yet, this is going to get pretty easy. We just select this, deselect the top edges, and we'll go ahead and bridge, and that one's set. Do the same thing over here. Select the whole thing, the whole loop, deselect the top edges, and bridge. And now we have the general shape pretty much ready to go. If we subdivide, we're going to see the obvious issues come about, and we'll start addressing those right now. So I'm going to start here with this one, and I'm going to have a loop slice, and I'm going to set this to 2 now because I'm going to need a second edge to make this sharp. So there and there, and then we're also going to need loop slice along there, but we don't need this top one, so I'm going to just get rid of that. Okay, and now we need to run some loops kind of through the middle of these poles here. And if we look, we can see that I'm just going to select the loops where our pegs will go here. So we can see that actually we've got these in a really good location. And what I'm going to do on this one, I'm just going to delete those two loops because we're not going to need them at the moment. And I'm just going to run two tighter loops, and that's going to help start that one off. And down here, this one may come into a bit of an issue of being kind of tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run those two loops. We obviously don't need the inner one there. And then what I want to do is, you can see here, if I go back to polys, this was going to be the area that was going to fit into, and that's getting a bit tight here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start right here. I'm just going to work my way all the way around the corner. So again, I'm going to leave kind of that space there, and then I'm just going to take this whole thing and slide it. Sorry, let's get out of sub-D mode there. And then we're going to slide this edge in. So let's slide. I'm just going to pull it back here. And that way we'll still have a nice area that we can place that bump in. Okay, so let's go back to sub-Ds and we'll see where we are. We're getting closer. And one place that we're going to definitely need to run some loop slices is along through here. So go ahead and put both of those there. And that's going to start to give me good rigidity all the way down until this very last one here. And we can see that, again, this is one of those spaces that's between our bumps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loop these, delete them. Actually, let's not delete those. I'm just going to add in one loop slice right here. And I don't need the inner one. And I can do the same thing here because now I can see this one has gotten really tight. And so what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm going to do the quickest way here. I think I'm just going to align these all here. So let me go all the way around. Let's see what's happening on the other side here. Yeah, that's pretty tight all the way around. Yeah, this one I may, well, yeah, I want to leave that inside edge there to be sharp. So let's get that whole thing there. And I'm just going to run my scale tool. And actually, no, take it back. Scale is going to cause us some issues. So let's just deselect that stuff. And yeah, that should work. So now let's do slide. Oops. Slide that and, sorry, boy, to be out of sub-Ds, or this is going to be more difficult than it needs to be. And again, slide. I'm just going to drag that one back over here. There are going to be definite places where you're going to have extra geometry come between what we would normally have for a piece like this. It's actually going to add on a little bit of geometry probably to our inner rings here, but that's okay. It's going to, in general, come off much easier than doing it another way. All right, so now let's go ahead and tab. We should have this almost ready here. And it looks like we do. The only thing that I'm noticing is we are going to need an extra loop slice here, here on this one, and on that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select up, down, this one up, and this one down. I'm alternating directions because I'm going to want to run a single loop slice. Set this down to 1, free, and I want it to move out from those edges. I'm going to set that up to 98%. And let's see, this is still going to cause a little bit of an issue over here, so I think what we'll do, let's unsubdivide, is I'm going to grab just one more edge here and move it over. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to come all the way up. Let's go to there, because that's kind of where I have the other one. I'm just going to go ahead and slide that down there. Oops, don't want to overlap the other one. And let's go ahead and check that. Okay, so that's working well. So we have the same issue right here. So again, I'm just going to select these edges. find where I had done that on the last one. So to right there. Again, just slide. And I'll bring that over just out of the way. And now we still have our 3 even spaces here, which I can actually at this point, well, let's double check our sub-D here. We should be all right. Let me go ahead and turn the wireframe off on this view. Let's hide our background mesh. That's definitely looking nice and crisp. Good. Yes, we should have a really small lip right here. Got good straight edges. In general, that's looking really nice and clean. Cool. So let's go back here. Go ahead and select all of these. Shift up arrow and cut those out. I'm going to unhide my hidden geometry. Let's get this guy and this guy. Should be at 24 edges, which we are. So I've got to reverse the direction on that one. That works. Same thing here and here. We'll bridge. And then finally here, here, bridge. And I make sure as you work around trying to pick an edge to click on, you know, so I went through about 3 edges that I didn't want to use. You just want to make sure you're not overlapping an underlying edge, because then you end up double clicking on one and it's going to select other loops other places, and it just saves you time. So it's good to find one that isn't overlapping with any other edges. So that's why I kind of hemmed and hawed about the edge to actually pick there. Okay, and now let's see, we've got the same thing going on the underside here, and we might have to slide a few edges down here too. And yeah, it looks like we're definitely going to in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these edges right here, those, those, and those. I don't have to overdo it, so I'm just going to get the ones that I really need. And now I'm just going to take these and slide and move them off that way. Oops. Looks like it's not going to let me do both of them at the same time here, so let's just go ahead and do them one at a time then. Those, slide them just off into the corner. This one, we'll go up to the same point here. Oops. And we'll slide those ones too. Oops. Wow. Forgot to deselect the other stuff. There we go. Make sure it highlights before you right click on it. It's going to try and select a poly or a point instead of your edge. Okay, so that one's working. And if we want, we can go ahead and do these as they as the spaces become available. I'm gonna go ahead and save this since this is kind of a mean one. Wing one. Hate to have things crash. You end up saving so many presets that you start to feel invincible with the presets. But then if you're working on the presets themselves, you can still fall victim to the occasional crash there. So let's go ahead and bridge that. Okay. I mean, probably going to need to do some adjusting of these outer edges here, but that's not going to be difficult. I'll just have to grab some of these and pull them back. That's okay. All right, so we're here, got the same thing, but only on one edge. So let's go ahead and grab that one, and we'll slide it out of the way. Make sure that you get everything selected properly here. Again, let's just slide this guy over. And this one I'm not even going to go too far because I know I've got plenty of space here for this. So let's just go ahead and cut that out. Let's subdivide, make it easier to see what we're working on. Look at this edge and this edge. Bridge those. And then down here we shouldn't have much, if any, issue. So I'm just going to select all this, cut it out. That edge, and go ahead. Oops, that's not the right edge. This is the right edge. There we go. Bridge those. All right, so now we've got this already, and now we have the slightly daunting but doable task of getting these, including this one that's going to be cut in half, into the mesh. So I'll start by hiding these, and we'll go right into kind of planning where they need to be. So actually, let's undo that. Let's cut them out entirely, place them into a new layer. And that's going to give us a better idea of kind of where we need to put things. In there. And we know that we did have, was it 16 sides on these? Let's double check here. No, those still have 12. So those have 12 edges. And we're going to see if it's at all possible to get a section with 12 edges to fit in here, because that's going to save us a pretty significant amount of time. So we'll try this here first. I think that we're probably going to have to increase them, and having to rebuild those, though, is not really the end of the world. But what we'd be looking for would be an area 3 by 3 by 3. So that's going to be this section right here is going to be the 12 size. That's probably not going to be doable. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this stuff, and let's see, actually probably can get away with deleting at least one of these edge loops here, because we got a bunch running through there, and this one doesn't really do anything in the sharpening category, so we can get rid of that guy. And let's try this one too, and see where that one runs on this end piece. Again, not doing much in the sharpening department. We had just kind of used those to get everything in place, and so those are going to be fine to get rid of. Alright, and let's see here. These ones we know we're going to need to slide down. So I'm just going to take those. I'm going to just use the move tool because these are planar. I'm just going to drag them back. And then I'm also going to get these here. Drag those in this way. And then we're going to get these here and drag these in this way. And that's going to start to give us a much better position to place these into.